Ms. Dancho to begin the second round with a 5-minute block.
Thank you,
Ms.
Mr. Chairman.
Dancho, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Minister, for being here. Recently, your department provided a cybersecurity briefing for members of the opposition, and when I asked them sort of what is the Pearl Harbor event that could happen to Canada concerning cyber attacks, one of the things they mentioned was an attack on our pipeline infrastructure, particularly in winter. I'm sure you would agree with that would be a considerable threat.
Well, first, I'm very happy that you had the briefing, and I agree that we need to be vigilant to protect our critical infrastructure, including pipelines, yes.
And I'm sure you're aware that the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack in the United States effectively shut down that pipeline for several hours. 17 states, including Washington, D.C., went into states of emergency. And so this is a very real threat, and I'm glad that your department seems to be taking this seriously. But on the other hand, concerning the Coastal GasLink pipeline, as you know that there was 20 assailants wielding axes, terrorized workers at the BC work site, caused millions of dollars of damage, and they even set up booby traps for when police would come to the site so that police couldn't get there. Very terrifying what's going on or what went on there. And yet 3 months later, the RCMP has announced that there's no leads, there's no information into their identities or methods or how they fund these eco-terrorist activities. And when your officials, some heads of CSIS and the RCMP, including the Deputy Commissioner of the RCMP, was at our committee a few weeks ago talking about ideologically motivated extremism, they could not tell me whether anyone had been arrested. Do you find that concerning that officials in your department who are here to talk about extremism were not following this violent case of extremism?
Well, I wouldn't collapse the officials into one general category, Ms. Dancho. There are departmental officials who are here to support all of us and me and the government in the creation of policies and laws. But when it comes to investigations, including who may be charged, those are questions that are best put to police.
Respectfully, Minister, I do feel that this is a bit of an excuse. They were here to talk about extremism, and they could not tell me. They weren't even following this at all. They couldn't tell me whether anyone had been arrested. I find that very concerning. Have you had discussions with your officials since that meeting?
Well, you may recall I expressed concern at the time of the incidents that you referred to.
You did provide a tweet, but that was about the extent of what I saw.
And as I was just going to say, Ms. Dancho, and I think it's important not to gloss over this.
I would agree.
We have to place our confidence in law enforcement to do their job when it comes to investigating and charging. And
Minister,
I'm just simply highlighting that
parliamentarians
have to be cautious
about commenting. You're here to discuss matters in your jurisdiction, and those who you're in charge of at the RCMP, who are charged with keeping Canadians safe, as are you, were not able to tell this committee if anyone had been arrested, even if they'd been arrested. So they're not even reading the news about this, let alone being informed from their officials. And so I find it very concerning, and we've seen this escalate, and I would say perhaps as a result that none of these wrongdoers, none of these eco-terrorists have been arrested or shown that what they've done is wrong. We've seen, as I'm sure you would know, I hope you would know, that in Montreal, a former Conservative minister and a senior RBC executive, Michael Fortier, when him and his family were sleeping at 1:30 in the morning, they were woken to their vehicles in their driveway being set on fire. In fact, the Quebec RBC executive president has also been a target of this. RBC branches have faced vandalism. So this is continuing to escalate, and I would say the public safety is at risk at this point. Would you agree?
I condemn that violence. I think we all should.
Are you concerned about the public safety and the escalation that we're seeing?
Of course. That's why I'm here, Ms. Dancho. We're here to talk about ways in which we can strengthen our laws and as well to provide additional tools to law enforcement to keep Canadians safe as the threat landscape becomes increasingly complex. I agree. So
why are you not concerned that your officials for the RCMP that were here a few days ago to talk about extremism were not following the Coastal GasLink case? They were not aware. They could not answer simple questions. That tells me that there's a bit of failure of leadership here, Minister.
Again, respectfully, Ms. Dancho, I would not say they're not following. I think rather they're being prudent in not wanting to comment on ongoing investigations.
They couldn't confirm if anyone had even been arrested.
Well-established principle within our democracy.
They couldn't confirm if anyone had been arrested. Don't you find that concerning?
I think questions around ongoing investigations are best put to law enforcement.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that perhaps there's some leniency here from your government that you personally have not provided your officials clearly the mandate to follow this case closely? Can you point to any evidence to the
On
contrary?
the contrary, I think my officials are extremely alert and vigilant when it comes to
But when they came to committee
threats.
to speak about extremism, they were not. They had no evidence to show that they've been following this case. And as you just outlined, an attack on our pipeline infrastructure is one of the gravest threats to our national security, and yet your officials
we're out
can't
of
answer
time.
simple questions, Minister. It's very disappointing.
We're out of time. We're out of time. Questioning whenever you're ready, Ms. Dancho.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, again, I just want to give you an opportunity to acknowledge that there seems to have been a failure in your department to take the Coastal GasLink pipeline seriously. Can you point to any measure that you have done to show the public that you're taking this seriously?
Ms. Dancho, respectfully, you've said now on a couple of occasions that my officials don't take this seriously. That's wrong.
And
They do.
why is it then that they were not able to tell me and members of this committee when they were invited here to talk about extremism that they were not following this case? Why is that?
I think rather what they are attempting to respect is the independence of law enforcement in carrying out investigations, which we all should be very cautious about commenting on. And it's not a lack of attention. It's rather wanting to respect that police are the ones who are best positioned to answer your questions. And I, by the way, agree you have every right and should be asking them. I would just simply encourage you to direct those questions to the police of jurisdiction. They're best situated to answer those questions.